This video covered the brake issues that we recently addressed on the Tunachucker Volvo Amazon. These are the front wheels, and you can see the fancy Wellwood braking calipers, which are budget exempt for Lemon's rules, on the cheap Mustang GT wheels. So on the back side here, you can see this is a GM metric caliper. Even though it's the Wellwood aluminum version, it's a GM metric. We've got an AN fitting here on the brake hose going up to the hard line on the body, and a custom made bracket here, torque marked, that attaches to the spindle. And this is a floating caliper, and a floating caliper means it floats on these pins here, right there and right there, that pin right on the top and the bottom. And on the inside of the caliper casting, there's an O-ring where those floating pins ride on, and the O-rings were degraded or in a couple places missing, which would allow the caliper to wobble on that bracket. And I believe that that wobbling was what was causing the piston knockback that we had at Dominion on one of the corners, where you would have to pump the brakes in order to get the piston back up in order to have brakes for the corner. It's a little bit disconcerting the first couple of times it happens. We managed to drive around it, but obviously is not ideal. So replace the O-rings on both front calipers, and the piston and the calipers have no play right now, back and forth. They're free to slide, but they don't wobble. You don't want to wobble. I also put the anti-rattle clip on the inside pad. You can't see it, but the anti-rattle clip attaches the inside pad to the piston and keeps it from wobbling or rattling back and forth, hence the name anti-rattle clip. Moving to the back of the car, we have the same brake setup here with the same 16-inch rotors, which I forgot to mention. Those are Grand Marquis Ford Crown Victoria rotors from the mid-90s. And back here we have a different caliper. These are cast iron calipers, but they have a smaller piston in them. So smaller piston, if you know your physics, equals less force from the same amount of force on the master cylinder, which means we get less force on these, which is what we want because they're rear brakes. We don't want as much force as on the front brakes. The front Wellwood calipers have larger pistons, so you'll get more braking force. So these are smaller bore pistons. They just happen to be cast iron. That doesn't matter. I mean, they're very light anyway. And we had the same issue here. We had O-rings around this pin and O-rings around this pin. The O-rings were worn out or missing, so we replaced them, and as a result we get nice smooth movement of the calipers back and forth with no binding and no rattling. And we also did put the anti-rattle clips here as well on the inside pad, which connects it to the inside of the caliper piston. So that's a rundown of the braking system on the Tunachucker Volvo Amazon.